Ladies and gentlemen, my name's Paul, and in this redgamingtech.com video, we're going to be discussing and analysing tech news which, as usual, has popped over the past 24 or so hours. And that's right, I am back on camera. I know you've missed me all, but yeah, normal service has returned. And I'm going to start the video out with the exclusive that I was teasing yesterday. So, a couple of days ago, you might recall that the website WCCF Tech were citing sources that had told them that we would be seeing up to 64 cores for the Threadripper processors. So I decided to do some investigation of my own, and I eventually managed to get hold of the source that had given me a lot of information that had proven accurate in the past. This was actually the source that explained to me that the processors would indeed launch on July the 7th. For new viewers, you can actually check back on the history of the channel, and I was actually the first one to break that we would be seeing the Ryzen 3000 and also the Navi GPUs launch on July the 7th, and that information came from this source, as well as other things like Vega being released on 7nm for gamers, although to be fair, they did not call it the Radeon 7. The Radeon 7 name actually came from a different source. So this source has provided me lots of information in the past that has proven to be accurate. There's also other stuff as well, but I don't want to make this an entire history of the channel. So this source has confirmed to me that AMD are planning up to 64 cores for consumers, which of course would be on the Threadripper platform. Now, what I'm trying to find out right now is the actual details regarding the platform itself and whether we would see a break in regards to backwards compatibility and forwards compatibility. Because as you're probably aware, the current X399 platform, this is going to be one of those days, isn't it? The current X399 platform uses just quad channel memory, which is good up to 32 cores and all, but how well it would scale up to 64 cores, 128 threads, no idea. Then again, you can argue, of course, that there was some doubt regarding the performance of Ryzen 3000 with 16 cores on dual channel memory, and it seems to be performing pretty spiffy. So maybe AMD will just be beefing up the HEDT platform with much faster memory. Actually, if you recall, Ryzen 3000 officially supports 3200 MHz, but even in AMD's own press information, and they're actually, of course, disclosing this to the public, they're actually telling you that the best value / performance lies in around 3600 MHz, and you can get a 1-to-1 ratio between memory and Infinity Fabric at 3733 MHz. So possibly they will feel that that's sufficient and adequate, and will be perfect for the next generation Threadripper processors as well. Either way, my source also gave me a couple of other tidbits. So one of the things that AMD are really pushing right now, and I actually alluded to this somewhat yesterday as well, is they are just really wanting to push the core counts up for the server market, desktop, and HED. I'm going to get into some Rome leaks later on actually, and I decided to deliberately wait until today to cover them because I figured it would work rather nicely given the rest of the topics of this video. And clearly this is putting Intel under an immense amount of pressure. Also, according to my source anyway, AIBs as well as OEMs, just basically system integrators at large, plus the general, supply chain, are very much more confident now with AMD compared to what they were, and this is for a couple of reasons. One, Ryzen 3000 is looking a very good product. Obviously, people in the supply chain probably have the processor so they can do their own independent testing to verify AMD's claims. But the second thing is now we've got a couple of generations of Ryzen circulating amongst consumers, and plus the adoption in the HPC space is starting to really take off as well, and servers. It basically means that people's confidence levels are starting to increase just in general. One thing that has been said though by my source is that the software itself still in some areas needs to improve, and obviously developers now are starting to get more a handle on the optimization of things, particularly in the server space as well, so he thinks that this is just going to continue to evolve much quicker over time. Doubtlessly, Intel are facing an immense amount of pressure throughout the entire product lineup at the moment. They are, with the lighter weight portable devices, facing pressure from manufacturers who are starting to push towards tablets and so on. You also have, of course, on the desktop, AMD, and in HEDT, AMD as well will be putting the squeeze on them. But I think Intel can certainly weather the storm. After all, they are Intel and they have an abundance of resources. It's going to be curious, though, exactly what Sunny Cove is capable of when we eventually see it trickle to the desktop. I'm not really convinced that Comet Lake is going to be sufficient, but then again, it also depends on the pricing strategies as well that Intel decide to employ, as well as clock frequencies and the final performance of AMD's processors. And now we're going to move over to Rome, because an entire list of processors as well as their prices has leaked online thanks to 3D Center. Now, I'm not going to read out all of the various SKUs here because, quite frankly, it would take way too long and you can read them yourself, but there is an abundance of choice from AMD. But the key takeaway here, of course, as we look through the prices, is that AMD's Rome CPUs are considerably cheaper compared to that of Intel's, which offer similar-ish levels of performance. As I mentioned a few moments ago, I'm not going to list out all of these processor SKUs because I will be here until next Christmas, but you can see the pricing yourself, and this is US dollars, which obviously does include the conversion rate and taxes and all of that stuff where relevant for both of the prices. So the US dollar price for the top end SKU, which is 7742, it is a 64 core 128 thread processor with a boost frequency of 3.4 GHz, of course 256 megabytes of cache, as we all know, because level 3 being so gigantic now. And the US dollar price is $9,340 US. Just for the sake of my sanity throughout this video, I am going to round down or round up prices throughout. Then we have another processor. I'm going to focus on the 48 core higher end SKU here. It is the 7642 processor, 48 cores, 96 threads, with the same boost frequencies as I mentioned a moment ago, so 3.4 GHz. The cache has been reduced to just 192 megabytes. I say just, that's still gigantic. And it's going to cost you basically $6,500 US. And you can continue to float down the SKU list with the 32 core 64 thread processor, which is going to cost you basically $3,100 US, and that part is going to be 180 watts. So the TDP for these CPUs with the lower end processors, for example the 7752, which is just 8 cores, 16 threads, it is running at 3.2 gigahertz, and it's going to cost you about, let's call it $650. So the TDP for that is going to be 120 watts, which is one of the lower end SKUs in terms of the wattage. There are others that are similar levels of TDP, but the highest end SKU is 7742, which is going to run at 225 watts, as is the 7642, and so on. This is further pushing the price war against Intel. Because the Xeon Platinum 9282, and this was announced a couple of months back, by the way, has a TDP of 400 watts. So 225 versus 400. It does have a slightly higher boost frequency, though, 3.8 gigahertz, but it also features fewer cores, 56 cores, which is still a lot, but not as many as 64 cores, of course, and 112 threads. And these chips are going to cost between $25,000 US and, well, $50,000 US. And that's assuming, of course, all of these prices are actually legitimate, but it's looking quite likely. As one would expect, I will plonk a link in the description of this video so you can check out the list of SKUs at your leisure. Now I want to finish the video off with some further comments from Phil Spencer for the next generation consoles. Now this is not regarding the T-flops, this is not concerning the amount of RAMs, and this is not concerning any other actual technical details of the console. Instead, it was more a comment regarding first-party studios from Microsoft and the absence of certain studios at E3 2019. It turns out, according to an interview with Phil Spencer, I'll link it of course in the video description, that they had actually deliberately held back several titles from E3. Now, it's fair to say that E3 from Microsoft was really strong. It was much stronger than what we've had for the last several years. 2018 was kind of cool because, well, there were the odd game here or there, most of the years for me, to be honest with you. But there were other games, it was mostly the teasing of the next generation systems from Phil that kind of made it go, oh, okay then. You know, they're acquiring all of these studios and they're obviously working on next generation hardware, that's amazing. But it wasn't really enough to push them at the top of the stack when it came to the E3 lineup that year. This year though, it's arguable. I mean, I think Nintendo were extremely strong. It was like a 30-ish minute presentation, I believe, and it was just like 1 game, 2 game, 3 game, like Zelda looks amazing, because who doesn't want a new Zelda, right? And all of those other titles. You had Microsoft, of course, that were really strong, and so on and so on. And Square, well, all they had to do is basically show Final Fantasy. That's literally all they had to do, and they did. But anyway, it's a rather large turnabout for Microsoft because clearly they've always been, criticized to just not have first-party titles. And now it's like they have such an abundance of games, they felt that they could actually hold them back. And that's something that Sony have found themselves in the position to do in the past, as well as Nintendo. With all of that said, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you did, then be sure to subscribe to the channel as well as click the bell icon. And of course, give us a like and also comment down below on your thoughts on today's video. And you can also find us, of course, on social media, which is linked in the description of this video, along with Patreon. Once again, don't feel you have to donate, but if you do choose to donate, then it does, of course, help us out with equipment costs and, just general stuff with running the channel. And you can also find us on Amazon affiliate links as well, which will be linked below as well. With all that said, I wish you a great day. Take care of yourselves. Bye for now.